I went to this dinner party a while back,
Mm-hmm.
and this guy just wouldn't stop talking about his vision board.
Oh, yeah.
Every other sentence was like, ever since I put it on board, it's manifested.
Right.
And I tried to keep
Yeah.
an open mind. I
Yeah.
really did.
Sure.
But at the time, the whole manifestation thing just felt like a recipe for disappointment.
Yeah.
Like setting yourself up for failure when that yacht doesn't magically appear.
It's definitely a concept that tends to elicit some strong reactions.
Yeah.
Some people swear by it. Others are deeply skeptical.
Exactly. And to be honest, I was more in the skeptical camp
Okay.
until I started digging into the material you shared for today's deep dive.
Okay.
It goes way beyond just thinking happy thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
This is about the idea that our minds are far more powerful than we realize.
That's exactly it.
Whoa.
The material we're exploring today dives into the concept that our thoughts,
Okay.
our emotions, are deeply held beliefs. They don't just stay locked away in our heads. They actually have the power to influence and shape the reality we experience.
Okay, that's intriguing,
Yeah,
but also a little intimidating.
sure.
I mean, if our thoughts have that much power, no pressure, right?
Well, it does place a certain level of responsibility on us, doesn't it?
Wow.
But rather than feeling overwhelmed, think of it this way.
Okay.
If your thoughts are shaping your reality anyway, wouldn't you want to learn how to harness that power consciously?
That's true.
That's what we're going to unpack today.
All right, I'm game.
Okay.
So where do we even begin?
Uh,
The material mentioned something about relaxation,
okay.
trust, and expectation.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like those were the key ingredients, but I'm not sure I understand how they all fit together.
That's a great place to start because those three concepts are really the foundation of this whole manifestation process.
Okay.
Think of it like building a house.
Mm-hmm.
Relaxation is clearing the ground, creating a stable foundation. It's tough to build anything if the ground's constantly shaking right.
Okay. So if our minds are racing with anxiety or fear,
Right.
it's like trying to build a house on shaky ground.
Exactly.
Nothing stable is going to come of that.
When we're stressed or anxious, our energy is scattered.
Right.
But relaxation allows us to be present, open, and receptive to new possibilities.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So what about trust?
Okay.
Where does that fit into the construction project?
Think of trust as the building materials,
Okay.
the sturdy lumber and concrete that give the house structure.
Hmm.
It's about having faith that the universe
Okay.
or whatever higher power resonates with you
Sure.
has your back.
Okay.
It's about surrendering to the process and trusting that things are unfolding as they should, even if you can't see the full picture yet.
But what about when things aren't going our way?
Hmm.
That's when it's the hardest to trust, isn't it?
Absolutely. That's
Yeah.
where the real work comes in.
Yeah.
It's about cultivating a deep-seated trust that even those challenges, those unexpected detours, are ultimately leading you towards your highest good.
So we've cleared the ground with relaxation,
Right.
gathered our materials with trust.
Yeah.
What's the final piece? The expectation.
Expectation is the blueprint, the vision for what you want to create.
Okay.
It's not about wishful thinking, hoping it'll magically happen. It's about cultivating an inner knowing, a certainty that what you desire is already on its way.
That's interesting because the materials seem to emphasize that it's not enough to just think it.
Right.
You have to feel it.
Yeah.
What does that actually mean?
Okay.
And how is it different from, say, just daydreaming?
That's where we move from the blueprint to actually stepping into the house. Even if it's still under construction,
Okay.
imagine instead of just wishing for that corner office,
Right.
you allow yourself to feel the leather chair, to feel the sense of accomplishment as you look out over the city.
Okay.
You start making decisions as if that reality is already yours.
So it's about embodying the feeling of the desire,
Exactly.
not just intellectually acknowledging it.
The material actually uses the analogy of turning a radio.
Okay.
If you want to listen to jazz,
Mhm.
you don't just think about jazz music. You tune your radio to the right frequency.
Sure.
Feeling is how we tune ourselves to the frequency of our desires.
That's a really cool way to visualize it. So how do we actually do that?
Right.
How do we shift our frequency to match our desires? The material mentions some techniques, right?
Yes, and this is where things get really practical.
Okay.
The first one that comes up is meditation.
Okay, meditation. I'll admit I've struggled with meditation in the past.
Sure.
My mind wants to race through my to-do list instead of finding peace and quiet.
Yeah.
How is meditation different in this context? What are we actually doing with our minds?
You've hit on a common misconception.
Okay.
It's not about emptying your mind completely,
Mm-hmm.
but more about becoming aware of the thoughts that are already playing like a broken record in the background. Those limiting beliefs about ourselves and the world.
So instead of just trying to stop the thoughts,
Right.
it's about noticing them and choosing whether to give them power.
Exactly. The material talks about how our minds are like gardens.
Okay.
If we don't tend to them,
Yeah.
weeds, in this case, negative thought patterns,
Mhm.
can take over. Meditation is how we start to pull those weeds and plant new seeds, empowering beliefs that support our desires.
Okay. I can see how that ties into the whole rewiring the brain concept.
Right, and there's actually a scientific basis for this.
Okay.
Neuroplasticity. The brain's ability to change and adapt
Mm.
is a hot topic in research right now. Studies have shown that consistent meditation can actually change the structure and function of the brain, creating new neural pathways.
That's wild. So meditation helps us clear out the mental clutter
Yeah.
and start laying the groundwork for new, more supportive thought patterns.
Right.
What about visualization? I've always thought of that as more of a creative exercise.
Sure.
But the materials seem to suggest it's much deeper than that.
Visualization is like taking those new seeds we planted with meditation
Okay.
and giving them the sunlight and water they need to grow.
Right.
It's not just about seeing what we want in our mind's eye. It's about engaging all our senses.
So instead of just visualizing myself giving a killer presentation,
Yeah.
I should also try to feel the energy of the room. Hear the sound of applause.
Right.
Even imagine the taste of my celebratory drink afterwards.
Exactly. The more vividly we can experience the desired outcome in our minds,
Yeah.
the more we convince our subconscious that it's possible, that it's already happening. And that's what starts to shift our energy and attract those experiences into our lives.
Okay. I'm starting to see how all of this fits together.
Yeah.
We've talked about meditation and visualization. What about gratitude?
Mm-hmm.
That's a big one we hear a lot about these days.
Hmm.
But I'm curious, what makes it so powerful in this context of manifestation?
Gratitude is powerful because it shifts us from a place of lack to a place of abundance.
Okay.
Instead of focusing on what we don't have, we're appreciating what is working in our lives.
Right. It's about recognizing that we already have plenty to be grateful for,
Yes.
even if we haven't manifested that dream job or beach house yet.
And here's the interesting thing the material highlighted.
Okay.
When we express gratitude,
Yeah.
we're not just acknowledging the good in our lives, we're also sending a signal to the universe that we're open to receiving more of it. It's like saying, thank you for all of this. I'm ready for even more blessings.
So it's not just about feeling good in the moment.
Yeah.
It's about creating a positive feedback loop with the universe.
Exactly. The more we focus on what we're grateful for, the more we attract experiences that amplify those feelings of gratitude.
Okay, that makes sense. So we've covered meditation, visualization, and gratitude. There was one more technique from the material that I wanted to ask you about.
Yeah.
Inspired action.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big believer in taking action towards our goals.
Sure.
But what's the difference between that and this inspired kind of action?
It's like the difference between rowing upstream,
Yeah.
where you're forcing every movement
Yeah.
versus letting the current carry you towards your destination
Right.
and you just have your oars poised to navigate.
So inspired action flows effortlessly
Exactly.
from a place of alignment.
Yeah, it's not about forcing. It's about trusting that when we're clear about what we want
Okay.
and we're taking care of our energetic alignment,
Right.
the right opportunities will show up.
It's like we become more attuned to those subtle nudges from the universe.
Yeah.
Those synchronicities that might have passed us by before.
Exactly. We
Yeah.
start to notice those little signs, those unexpected connections. And instead of writing them off as coincidence, we
Yeah.
think, could this be a piece of the puzzle falling into place?
That reminds me of something that really resonated with me from the material.
Yeah.
This idea that manifestation isn't about achieving some picture-perfect reality
Right.
where everything always goes our way.
It's not a magic bullet.
Right.
Yeah.
It's about navigating the journey with more awareness and intention.
Exactly. That's such an important point because
Yeah.
it would be easy to think, okay, once I've manifested my dream life,
Right.
then I'll be happy and everything will be perfect.
Right.
But the reality is life is always going to throw us curveballs.
Yeah.
The key is to approach those challenges from a place of empowerment,
Right.
knowing that we have the tools to navigate them.
And speaking of tools, the material also touched on something I found really interesting.
Okay.
The importance of self-care as a foundation for manifestation.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like that saying you can't pour from an empty cup.
So true. We often put so much pressure on ourselves
Yeah.
to do more, to be more, that we forget to simply be, to recharge our batteries and reconnect with our inner source of energy.
So in the context of manifestation, what does self-care actually look like? What are some practical ways we can replenish our energy?
That's a great question, and it's different for everyone.
Sure.
But the material highlighted the importance of listening to our intuition
Okay.
and finding what truly nourishes us on a soul level.
Hmm.
For some people, it might be spending time in nature. For others, it might be losing themselves in a creative project. Or maybe it's as simple as taking a long, luxurious bath.
So it's about tuning into what makes us feel truly alive and energized,
Yes.
and then making those things a priority.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that self-care isn't selfish.
Right.
It's essential when we're taking care of ourselves,
Mm.
physically, emotionally, spiritually.
Right.
We create a more powerful magnetic energy field.
We raise our vibration, as the material put it.
Yes, and that high vibration not only feels good, it also attracts more good into our lives.
That's a pretty amazing side effect.
Right.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into manifestation,
Yeah.
is there anything that particularly stood out to you from all of this?
You know what really struck me was the material's emphasis on the power of choice.
Right.
It'd be easy to walk away from this feeling overwhelmed, like we have to control every single thought
Right.
in order to manifest our desires. But the truth is we're always choosing. Whether we're conscious of it or not, we're choosing what to focus on, what
Right.
to believe, how to respond to the circumstances life throws our way.
That's a powerful reminder and a great place to leave our listeners as we wrap up this deep dive.
Yeah.
So much of this comes down to making conscious choices about how we show up in the world, how we engage with our own energy, and ultimately, what we choose to create.
Beautifully said.
Yeah.
It's about stepping into that role of conscious creator.
And on that note, to all of you listening, we'd love for you to ponder this. If you could choose to feel anything right now, in this moment, what feeling would it be? What one small step can you take today to align yourself with that feeling, to move just a little bit closer to the reality you desire? Remember, the universe is listening.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep believing, and keep creating the life of your dreams.